We're going. And howdy, everybody. Howdy, Matt. Howdy, Lynn. Howdy, Dee. Howdy, Dee.
Howdy, Dee.
Howdy.
Yeah. Got to make sure you had that extra D on there.
That's right.
All right. So, everybody, welcome to the Word 148. Today we are finishing Malachi with chapters 3 and 4. And then we're going to side scoot boot boogie over to the Apocrypha for Tobit. Chapter 1, 2, come on. I know I clicked it. There we go. 3. So that is what we're reading today. We'll go ahead and pray in real quick. Good morning, Father. Good afternoon, Father, whenever everybody is viewing this. Thank you for letting us continue to study your word. We're very grateful for that. And we would ask for your spirit of knowledge, understanding, and discernment to be put out on everybody that's partaking in this study, this reading now or in the future. And we would also ask for you to touch those that are afflicted with allergies today, that are having a real hard time, and just take it away from them and put your healing touch on them, different kind of allergy. So anyways, we thank you. We're very grateful for it. Please let us be effective as your children. In Jesus Yeshua's name, amen. Okay, so when we go over to Tobit, I will screen share what we're reading, since many people don't have an Apocrypha. So if you're reading Tobit, nobody gets to see your pretty face. If you're reading both, you get to see it and not see it. So who does that leave in the out? Well, we'll figure that out. All right. Malachi chapter 3 is where we're starting. Behold, I will send my messenger, and he shall prepare the way before me. And the Lord, whom ye seek, shall suddenly come to his temple, even the messenger of the covenant, whom ye delight in. Behold, he shall come, saith the Lord of hosts. But who may abide the day of his coming? And who shall stand when he appeareth? For he is like a refiner's fire, and like fuller's soap. And he shall sit as a refiner and purifier of silver, and he shall purify the sons of Levi, and purge them as gold and silver, that they may offer unto the Lord an offering in righteousness. Then shall the offering of Judah and Jerusalem be pleasant unto the Lord, as in the days of old, and as in former years. And I will come near to you to judgment, and I will be a swift witness against the sorcerers, and against the adulterers, and against false swearers, and against those that oppress the hireling in his wages, the widow and the fatherless, and that turn aside the stranger from his right. And fear not me, saith the Lord of hosts. For I am the Lord, I change not. Therefore, ye sons of Jacob are not consumed. Even from the days of your fathers ye are gone away from mine ordinances, and have not kept them. Return unto me, and I will return unto you, saith the Lord of hosts. But ye said, wherein shall we return? Will a man rob God? Yet ye have robbed me. But ye say, wherein have we robbed thee? In tithes and offerings. Ye are cursed with a curse, for ye have robbed me, even this whole nation. Bring ye all the tithes into the storehouse, that there may be meat in mine house, and prove me now herewith, saith the Lord of hosts, if I will not open you the windows of heaven, and pour you out a blessing, that there shall not be room enough to receive it. Verse 11, and I will rebuke the devourer for your sakes, and he shall not destroy the fruits of your ground, neither shall your vine cast her fruit before the time in the field, saith the Lord of hosts. And all nations shall call you blessed, For you shall be a delightsome land, saith the Lord of hosts. Your words have been stout against me, saith the Lord. Yet you say, what have we spoken so much against thee? Ye have said, it is in vain to serve God. And what profit is it that we have kept his ordinance, and that we have walked mournfully before the Lord of hosts? And now we call the proud happy. Yea, they that work wickedness are set up. Yea, they that tempt God are even delivered. Then they that feared the Lord spake often one to another, and the Lord hearkened and heard it. And a book of remembrance was written before him that feared before him for them that feared the Lord, and that thought upon his name. And they shall be mine, saith the Lord of hosts, in that day when I make up my jewels, and I will spare them, as a man spareth his own son that serveth him. Then shall you return and discern between the righteous and the wicked, between him that serveth God and him that serveth him not.
For behold, the day is coming, burning like a furnace, and all the arrogant and every evildoer will be chaff, and the day that is coming will set them ablaze, says the Lord of hosts, so that it will leave them neither root nor branch. But for you who fear my name, the Son of Righteousness will rise with healing in its wings, and you will go forth and skip about like calves from the stall. You will tread down the wicked, for they will be ashes under the soles of your feet on the day which I am preparing, says the Lord of hosts. Remember the law of Moses, my servant, even the statutes and ordinances which I commanded him in Horeb for all Israel. Behold, I am going to send you Elijah the prophet before the coming of the great and terrible day of the Lord. He will restore the hearts of the fathers to their children, and the hearts of the children to their fathers, so that I will not come and smite the land with a curse.
Okay, who's reading?
D.
Me, sorry.
It's okay.
The book of the words of Tobit, son of Tobiel, the son of Ananiel, the son of Aduel, the son of Gabael, the seed of Asael, of the tribe of Naphtali, who in the time of Enemesar, king of the Assyrians, was led captive out of Thisbe, which is at the right hand of the city, which is called properly Naphtali in Galilee over Aser. I, Tobit, have walked all the days of my life in the ways of the truth and justice, and did my alms deed to my brethren and my nation, who came with me to Nineveh, into the land of the Assyrians. And when I was in mine own country, in the land of Israel, being but young, all the tribes of Naphtali, my father fell from the house of Jerusalem, which was chosen out of the tribes of Israel, that all the tribes should sacrifice there, where the temple of the habitation of the Most High was consecrated and built for all ages. Now all the tribes which together revolted in the house of my father Naphtali sacrificed unto the heifer Baal, but I alone went often to Jerusalem at the feast, as it is ordained, until all the people of Israel, by an everlasting decree, having the first fruits and tenths of increase, with that which was first shorn, and them gave I at the altar to the priests of the children of Aaron. The first 10th part of all increase I gave to the sons of Aaron, who ministered in Jerusalem. Another 10th part I sold away and went and spent it every year at Jerusalem. And the third I gave unto them to whom it was meet, as Deborah, my father's mother, had commanded me, because I was left an orphan by my father. Furthermore, when I was come to the age of a man, I married Anna of my own kindred, and of her I begat Tobias. And when we were carried away captives to Nineveh, all my brethren and those of my kindred did eat of the bread of the Gentiles. but I kept myself from eating, because I remembered God with all my heart. And the Most High gave me grace and favor before in a measure, so I was his purveyor. And I went into Media and left in trust with Gabael, the brother of Gabarus, at Rages of a city of Media, 10 talents of silver. Now when Enemeser was dead, Sennacherib, his son, reigned in his stead, whose estate was troubled, that I could go not into Media. And in the time of Enemeser, I gave my alms to my brethren, and gave my bread to the hungry, and my clothes to the naked. And if I saw any of my nation dead or cast about the walls of Nineveh, I buried him. And if King Sennacherib had slain any when he was come and fled from Judea, I buried them privily, for in his wrath he killed many, but the bodies were not found when they were sought for of the king. And when one of the Ninevites went and complained of me to the king, that I buried them and hid myself, understanding that I was sought for to be put to death, I withdrew myself in fear. Then all my goods were forcibly taken, neither was there anything left me beside my wife Anna and my son Tobias. And there passed not 55 days before 2 of his sons killed him, and they fled into the mountains Ararat. And Sarchedonus, his son, reigned in his stead, who appointed over his father's accounts and over all his affairs Achicarius, my brother Anael's son. And Achicarius, entreating for me, I returned to Nineveh. Now Achicarius was cupbearer and keeper of the signet, and steward and overseer of the accounts. And Sarchedonus appointed him next to him, and he was my brother's son.
Chapter 2. Now when I was come home again, my wife Anna was restored to me with my son Tobias in the feast of Pentecost, which is the holy feast of the 7 weeks. There was a good dinner prepared me, in which I sat down to eat. And when I saw abundance of meat, I said to my son, Go and bring what poor man soever thou shalt find out of our brethren, who is mindful of the Lord, and lo, I tarry for thee. But he came again and said, Father, one of our nation is strangled, and is cast out of the marketplace. Then before I tasted of any meat, I started up, and took him up into the room until the going down of the sun. Then I returned, and washed myself, and ate my meat in heaviness, remembering that prophecy of Amos, as he said, Your feast shall be turned into mourning, and all your mirth into lamentation. Therefore I wept, and after the going down of the sun I went and made a grave and buried him. But my neighbors mocked me and said, This man is not yet afraid to be put to death for this matter, who fled away, and yet, lo, he burieth the dead again. The same night I also returned from the burial, and slept by the wall of my courtyard, being polluted, and my face was uncovered. And I knew not there were sparrows on the wall, and mine eyes being opened, the sparrows muted warm dung into my eyes, and whiteness came in my eyes. And I went to the physicians, but they helped me not. Moreover, Achicarius said, Nourish me until I went into Elmias. And my wife Anna did take women's work to do, and when she had sent them home to the owners, they paid her wages, and gave her also besides a kid. And when it was in my house and began to cry, I said unto her, From whence is this kid? Is it not stolen? Render it to the owners, for it is not lawful to eat anything that is stolen. But she replied to me, It was given for a gift more than the wages. Howbeit I did not believe her, but bade her render it to the owners. And I was abashed at her. But she replied upon me, Where are thy alms and thy righteous deeds? Behold, thou and all thy works are known.
Tobit chapter 3. Then I, being grieved, did weep, and in sorrow prayed, saying, O Lord, thou art just, and all thy works and all thy ways are mercy and truth, and thou judgest truly and justly forever. Remember me and look on me. Punish me not for my sins and ignorances, and the sins of my fathers who have sinned before thee. For they obeyed not thy commandments, wherefore thou hast delivered us for a spoil, and unto captivity, and unto death, and for a proverb of reproach to all the nations among whom we are dispersed. And now thy judgments are many and true. Deal with me according to my sins and my fathers, because we have not kept thy commandments, neither have we walked in truth before thee. Now therefore, deal with me as seemeth best unto thee, and command my spirit to be taken from me, that I may be dissolved, and become earth. For it is profitable for me to die rather than to live, because I have heard false reproaches, and have much sorrow. Command, therefore, that I may now be delivered out of this distress, and go into the everlasting place. Turn not thy face away from me. It came to pass that same day that in Ecbatane, a city of Media, Sarah, the daughter of Raguel, was also reproached by her father's maids, because that she had been married to 7 husbands, whom Asmodeus, the evil spirit, had killed, before they had lain with her. Dost thou not know, said they, that thou hast strangled thine husbands? Thou hast had already 7 husbands, neither wast thou named after any of them. Wherefore dost thou beat us for them? If they be dead, go thy ways after them. Let us never see of thee either son or daughter. When she heard these things, she was very sorrowful, so that she thought to have strangled herself. And she said, I am the only daughter of my father, and if I do this, it shall be a reproach unto him, and I shall bring his old age with sorrow unto the grave. Verse 11. Then she prayed toward the window, and said, Blessed art thou, O Lord, my God, and thine holy and glorious name is blessed and honorable forever. Let all thy works praise thee forever. And now, O Lord, I set mine eyes and my face toward thee, and say, Take me out of the earth, that I may hear no more the reproach. Thou knowest, Lord, that I am pure from all sin with man, and that I never polluted my name, nor the name of my father in the land of my captivity. I am the only daughter of my father, neither hath he any child to be his heir, neither any near kinsman, nor any son of his alive, to whom I may keep myself for a wife. My 7 husbands are already dead, and why should I live? But if it please not thee that I should die, command some regard to be had of me, and pity taken of me, that I hear no more reproach. So the prayers of them both were heard before the majesty of the great God. And Raphael was sent to heal them both, that is, to scale away the whiteness of Tobit's eyes, and to give Sarah, the daughter of Raguel, for a wife to Tobias, the son of Tobit, and to bind Asmodeus, the evil spirit, because she belonged to Tobias by right of inheritance. The selfsame time came Tobit home, and entered into his house, and Sarah, the daughter of Raguel, came down from her upper chamber. Well, that's a cliffhanger, eh? Okay, let's go back to
Now,
Malachi chapter 3. Okay, what do you have?
oh, verse 1 sounds very familiar.
Okay,
I mean,
yes, it does.
yeah. He shall come.
Yeah.
The messenger of the covenant. Oh, it's so awesome. It's Jesus.
I thought this one was John the Baptist.
Well, it is, but he's coming to even.
Well, if you look,
Which one?
I think the first clause is John the Baptist.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And the
I
second
agree.
one is Yeshua.
Yeah.
The second clause is Yeshua, but also verses 2 and 3.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So that, pretty amazing.
John the Baptist ain't a refiner's fire.
No, but I bet his words burned if you were on the receiving end of them.
I bet so.
Uh,
And Fuller soap. That's interesting.
now, what is
Yeah.
Fuller's soap?
That's the one that makes the whiteness. That's the one that makes everything white and gets all the stains out, isn't it?
Well, that's what I'm asking.
Well, I think that is what it is because I think we have explored that, or I have. Let's see.
It is found with individuals who use it from raw, filthy wool from sheep to purify it.
That's interesting.
It's a harsh soap. A harsh
lye.
soap.
Lye is very harsh.
Oh, Granny soap.
Why?
Oh, I love Granny soap.
Yeah.
Children fear Granny soap.
Isn't one of those pure soaps like Dove or Oil of Olay or something like that made with lye? No?
You guys ever made homemade soap?
Yeah, Castile soap. Castile
Yeah,
soap
that's what
is
I
made
figured.
from lye.
Oh, is it? I didn't know that.
So all the Dr. Bonner stuff? is
Yeah,
lye?
so
Yeah.
it took all the burn
I
out
love
of
that
it.
stuff.
That explains why it hurts when you
Yeah.
get it in your eye.
Mm-hmm. And I wash my hair with Castile soap.
Do you?
Mm-hmm. When I was getting rid of all the chemicals, that's what I switched to. But do
It's-
you guys remember there's a song that's called Refiner's Fire?
Mhm.
No.
Mhm.
And I don't know that anybody really realizes what you're praying for when you ask for Refiner's Fire. It's sort of like one of those patience prayers.
Yeah.
I've learned not to pray. I don't pray for patience anymore.
Pray for patience, and then everybody starts trying your patience.
Yeah. And it's like, okay, well, let's see what you're up against here. Oh.
Right?
Sin.
So that. Okay, what else do we have here?
I highlighted the second half of 3. That
Okay.
he will purify the sons of Levi.
Okay.
You know, there's going to be a second temple. There's going to be, another, not second, but there's going to be a temple in the kingdom.
Right.
And so there's going to be servants in that temple. So I think that there's groups of our people that are part of our ecclesia right now that may be going through some extra hard, difficult things. They're being refined for that service. It's burning off the dross. They're being refined. They're going through that fire. And sometimes it can look like, well, you're being sinful and that's what's going through, but is it not maybe just he's getting rid of the junk?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
But I miss my junk.
It's like I like carrying my junk around with me.
You gotta go deep to get rid of all that junk, or it'll come back.
Yeah.
Well, it's like, I think, Jonathan, you and I have said this, it's like layers of an onion.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You peel off one and you're good for a little bit, and then he's like, oh, I'm just getting started. Get ready for the tears. You peel that onion, man, it burns.
I always tell them, hurry up and do it. Let's just get it over with.
Like, rip that Band-Aid off. You couldn't stand it. We couldn't stand it if he did everything at once. There'd just be no way.
Oh yeah, we would probably, yeah.
It would kill us.
Yes.
Okay, so verse 5, that's all very reminiscent to me of Revelation, talking about who will be allowed into the kingdom.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So I will be a swift witness against the sorcerers and against the adulterers and against false swearers, which in Revelation says liars, I think, or he who loveth a lie.
Mm-hmm.
And against those that oppress the hireling for his wages, the widow and the fatherless, and that turn aside the stranger, and fear me not. Right? So they don't revere him. They don't fear him.
Didn't we read something like this in Zechariah?
Yep.
The same thing?
Yep.
Well, then look at the very next verse. He says, I don't change.
Yep. I change not. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
This is all right before, just right before the end of the Old Testament. Right before you read the New Testament. It's like,
Yeah.
well, this is later. Entirely.
Yeah.
But isn't there something like 400 years between the close of Malachi and the opening of Matthew?
459
well, you got-
or something.
There's a good stretch of time, yeah. But once you enter in like Maccabees, Tobit and Maccabees and stuff,
It fills that space in.
it shrinks that time gap considerably.
Mm-hmm.
And let's see,
Maccabees is such a good book.
we're almost there. That I find, if you got anything before 8 and 9,
The only thing I had was in 7.
okay.
Just it's like he's just opening his hand and saying, "Return to me, come back to me,
Mm-hmm.
and I will come back to you. I will return to you."
Yeah, we've heard that again. We heard that very recently also.
Mm-hmm.
8 is like the most taken out of context verse
I'm sorry?
by pastors, in my opinion.
Oh, when they want to use the tithe thing, that you're robbing God if you don't give a tithe.
Right. In that. But yeah, it's very interesting. 8 and 9. And that goes with what we read in the previous study in 147, talking about them bringing, blemished animals for their sacrifice and rotten bread for their offering. They're stealing from Yah, and I've been guilty of it too. Donating the pumpkin pie filling in July to the community food bank. We don't want this. Can you save this for the holidays? No. It'll have more dust on it then. Okay, what do we got after 9?
10.
Okay.
10 is awesome. I mean, come on, let's just all bring it. Let's
Yeah.
all bring it so that everybody has what they need. And if somebody doesn't have and they have a need, then there you go.
Yep.
And look, he's going to open up and pour out the blessings, and you just won't be able to keep it all. You'll just have to spread it all over, all those blessings.
Right. In that. And then in verse 11, right? All the prophecy we've read about the locusts, right? The cankerworm, and etc., eating up all the wealth. But if we put it into Yah's hands, he says, I will rebuke the devourer for your sakes, and he shall not destroy the fruits of your ground. Neither shall the vine cast her fruit before the time in the field.
And I was at a gathering yesterday, and somebody made a comment, and I thought it didn't sink in till later on, but he was like, sometimes the enemy gives blessings, and they're fake blessings. And so when we start doing things the Father's way, and we ask him to remove those fake blessings, the sand can seem the soil under our feet can seem sandy and shifty for a while, because it can be disruptive to our life. But then the Father's removing that old ugly dross so that he can establish his true blessings, and they're not going to look the same. Because a lot of times the enemy's blessings are what the world views as blessings, but that's not what the Father has to give.
Right.
So,
You mean like a new jet?
huh?
Like a business jet?
Yeah.
Or another mansion?
Or a job that's a great job, but you have to work Sabbath.
Right. Nope, I've turned that down. I've turned
Yeah.
that down before. $25 an hour. But I've been blessed because of it. So,
Yeah.
all right. So again, in verse 12, we have all nations again shall call you blessed. But I thought it was a one world order. Okay, sorry. And then, okay, what about after 12? Anything from 13 on?
Yes. I did 14.
Okay.
And I should have just done them all because then I went down 16, 17, 18.
Right.
Yes. I don't know. It's kind of, yeah, it's like you're asking yourself, what? Well, we've been serving Abba, but where,
Where's the reward?
Where's the reward? And they're saying that they walk mournfully now.
Yep.
Repenting and brokenhearted over their behavior.
Well, it is, they're tempting God, like in 15.
Right.
In that, but then in 16, he says, put the names of them in a book of remembrance.
Yes.
Right? Well, he doesn't say put the names of them, but, we're going to do a book of remembrance for those that feared or revered Yahweh and that thought upon his name. And they, who? The people in the book of remembrance, shall be mine in that day when I make up my jewels, and I will spare them as a man spareth his own son.
Mm.
And then we come right back to, right?
Mm-hmm.
We're told he's our father. We're told we are his adoption. Not a spirit of fear, but a spirit of adoption.
Yes. And of sound mind.
Yep. All right. Let's go to 4. I don't know. I didn't get much out of this.
Oh, you didn't?
No, I didn't.
Are you kidding me? You're joking.
Well,
I know you're joking.
Okay, there we go. So, what do you
I
have?
have just about everything highlighted in this chapter. Are you kidding?
Yeah. So verse 1, I mean, that's the consummation that Enoch talks about, in my opinion. But then on the other page, I have a question, but I think that's what that is.
Right.
And because it does talk about, I don't remember what book, where we will tread on the ashes of all those that get burnt up.
Yeah. In that, it's very interesting in verse 4. There's 2 components to the law. Remember ye the law of Moses, my servant. Right? With statutes and judgments. So it's not just walking in the law, but being able to righteously judge. Still working out, Matt? What's going on?
Matt's struggling with his internet.
Yeah, of course. It does this right in the show.
Probably a sun outage. Behold, in verse 5, I will send you Elijah the prophet before the coming of the great and dreadful day of the Lord. So would that be a confirmation of who are the 2 witnesses, that he is at least one of them?
Well, didn't Yeshua say
so.
that he sent Elijah with John the Immerser? John the Baptist, did he not say that? That's who that was?
But they refused him?
But they refused him?
Yep.
So, I mean, is that not considered? Or so
Well,
are we
that-
saying that was the great and terrible day of the Lord,
That's
is
what I
when
was
Yeshua
gonna
showed up?
No,
Or is that the
I'm
second
not.
time?
I believe that the great and terrible day is when we see the kingdom of heaven coming down,
Mhm.
the New Jerusalem.
I mean, that's going to be crazy. Probably
Okay.
by that time, though, we
That's
won't even blink about seeing this coming out of the sky. You know, by that time, we'll just be like, "Hey, yay!" and, you know, be happy, and I don't know, just guessing.
So that's in Matthew 11:14, I think.
Okay.
Let me look at that.
Oh, Bambi.
And it said, "For all the prophets and the law prophesied unto John, and if you care to accept it, he himself is Elijah who was to come."
If you accept it.
If you accept it.
Accept it.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's interesting. It's something to definitely think about because he said multiple times, for the kingdom of heaven is at
It's a
hand.
hand, right?
Yep. And if you look at that phrase, it literally means within your grasp.
Well, okay, so in Revelation, we're talking about, you know, the final judgment of the Father when he pours out his wrath.
Mm-hmm.
But would not Yeshua showing up be considered a great and terrible day as well? Because now you have no excuse for your sin.
Yep.
None. If you reject him, then you stand in judgment already.
Yep. It's the way I see it. So that, and then verse 6. Turn the heart of the fathers to the children, and the heart of the children to their fathers, lest I come and smite the earth with a curse.
Mm-hmm.
So, is that and Elijah?
It's not capitalized. So it's not, let's see, 6.
In that, but is that if they listen to him, like you just read, if they listen to Elijah,
If.
does that remove
Sounds like-
the sword that Yeshua brought to divide a household?
Well, it sounds like
If they pay heed to what message Elijah is giving.
Elijah's going to do the same thing Yeshua did, you know, turn them back to the Torah.
And have we not read in multiple places, there's a lot of ifs
Yes, there is.
in the promise of the Father. If you do
remember.
this, yeah, if you will do this, I will or won't do this.
If you, I will. Yep.
Right. Or I won't.
Yep.
What did you? Yeah.
Yep. Yep.
All right. So let's go to Tobit chapter 1.
Okay.
So, the book of the words of Tobit, and then in verse 2, in the time of Enemessar, king of the Assyrians, led captive out of Thisbe, which is at the right hand of that city, which is called properly Naphtali in Galilee above Asser. So, this is someone who has been taken into the Assyrian captivity. And remember when we were reading Ezekiel, he was in that area as well. But he was there in a period of time after Judah had been taken captive and was cognizant of Daniel. Daniel's fame was spreading. far and wide for his wisdom and knowledge. So this gives us a pretty good time estimate here. And then also, too, it goes, well, down a little later. We'll worry about that. But anyways, that's where we are. Anything after 2?
It's still in 2, because I mean I've got.
Okay.
I just had a thing that he did many charities. I mean, he was a good man.
Right.
And so it makes me wonder, just because we're following the ways of the Father doesn't mean that you may not deal with some tough stuff.
Yep. So where does he go to in verse 3?
Goes to Nineveh.
Nineveh again. Amazing, huh? That Nineveh has a much bigger place in Scripture than just the book of Jonah.
Mm-hmm.
Very, very interesting.
Well, as we read, it's a huge area,
Yeah.
and it's one of the cities that was founded by Nimrod.
Yeah.
And China in the plain. Is this in the land of Shinar still, Nineveh? Or Shinar?
I don't think it's that far north or east, but it could be. I always picture it on the Persian Gulf, or right like near the mouth of the Euphrates or Tigris as it empties into the Persian Gulf, or what we call the Persian Gulf.
According to Britannica, it's the oldest, most populous city of the Assyrian Empire, situated on the east bank of the Tigris River and encircled by modern-day Mosul, Iraq.
Oh, so it's much further north than I thought.
Mm-hmm. I didn't know where it was either, so.
If we trust Britannica. Okay, anyways.
I know.
No, but it is Britannica on the internet, so we can trust that.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
I have an old 1950s one I could go look at and see if it's in there, but
it might move. All right. Anyways, let's see here. So the captive to Nineveh, righteous dude, does good, does well, and he's from the tribe of Naphtali. But and then in verse 6 it says, he alone went often to Jerusalem for the feasts. So he was, regardless of them being taken captive and falling away, he was still trying to keep the feasts the best he could.
I think you missed an important part in 5.
Okay.
Where Baal is identified as a heifer.
it is interesting.
Well, remember when
A heifer instead of a male cow bull.
Mm-hmm.
It's odd. Why is there so much emphasis on the red heifer then? Okay.
Yeah.
Anyways, that is, what was the name of the other calf or the other molten calf that the house of Israel made? Right? Didn't they name one of them? Didn't they name one of them Yahweh?
Oh yeah.
This is our God that delivered us from Egypt, and then they named the other calf, molten calf, something else. After the separation from Judah, the house of Judah. And here is also a prime example of corporately, the tribe or nation collapsing, but the individual is still trying his best to serve, to serve his Father, his Heavenly Father.
Well, and that's just like today, except it's the opposite. It's like many of us fell in that captivity that we're in. And then now we're returning and we're having to fight to keep what we can.
Right. Yep. Trying to figure out what it was.
Right. Which has been completely wiped away. A lot of information is no longer available to us.
Yep.
Or corrupted or.
Yep. So then he talks about after they were taken captive, he refused to eat the bread of the Gentiles. What do you think that is?
Probably all this unclean food.
It's probably GMO.
Bacon jalapeno cheddar bread.
Probably unclean food. But
Maybe
that
those
he already.
Probably GMO.
those maple bacon cinnamon rolls. Okay.
Well, I mean, we have bread but just think of all the ingredients that's in our bread now
No,
that many of us cannot eat. It just if you pick up a label,
Is not even good.
well, if you look at a label on something and there's stuff in there you can't pronounce, it's like put it away and walk away. Put it down, walk away. You don't need to eat it.
Yeah. It's even that way with dogs' food and animals too. Yeah.
If it doesn't have less than about 10 ingredients and it's a bunch of chemicals, it's like it's not food.
Yeah.
So then we have Enemessar dies, and Sennacherib, his son, becomes king. And where did we see about him? Do you remember?
No.
Oh.
It was in, I think, 2 Chronicles, maybe.
I knew we had those names before, and I couldn't remember where they were.
Got 2 Kings, 2 Chronicles, and this is the one when they prayed and prayed and prayed. He fled because he heard about some rumor, right? So he went back home, and then his sons killed him. Does everybody remember that?
Well, yeah, it says that in here too.
Right.
It was in the mountains of Ararat. That's interesting.
Well, and I found a map of the old Shinar. It is in Shinar. It's in the northern kingdom of the land of Shinar. And I would like to.
So not the plain?
It's Nineveh's in the upper part of it.
Right. Okay.
Here, if you want to share, you can share. But yeah, it's Mount Ararat is up further above that. So
Boy, there's a lot of pop-ups on that page.
sorry.
Let's see.
Well, it's interesting because they're showing that the golden calf occurred in that very same area.
Yep. Okay.
So if you look right under Nimrod and Assyria, to the left of that's Nineveh.
There's Nineveh right there.
So if they're talking Mount Ararat, then that's further up where it says Hyrcanus or Inus.
So over here is Jerusalem, down in the bottom left, for context. In that here, Babylonia. Here's the city of Babylon. So when we talk about Babylon and Assyria, and then here we have the Hurrians.
Hurrians.
And then if you go way north, you'll find the Slowians. Okay, I'm sorry. I'll stop now.
Well, so if that's in Anzur, Turkey, that's the land of the Assyrian. Is that not the Northern Kingdom? Is that not where stuff's gonna happen?
It depends on context. But the Northern Kingdom, if you divide Israel into northern and southern kingdoms.
Well, I mean the land from the north, where
Right.
the enemy's going to come out of. The land of the north. No, I'm sorry, I said kingdom of the north.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, in that, I would agree with that. But what does everybody say? Well, you got to go all the way to Russia. No, you don't.
Mm-mm.
It's right there in that area. Okay. Anyways, so Sennacherib's killing people and just leaving them lay, right?
Mhm.
And he's going out and burying the bodies because that's not cool. You don't just leave bodies laying around.
But then apparently Sennacherib would come back looking for them. For what?
I don't know, personal satisfaction. There's somebody that stood against me. I killed them. Or wanting to kind of like when they
Put him on a pole.
put their heads on a pole.
Impaling?
Yep. Well,
Or
that too.
might be something more nefarious and yucky.
Yep. So, all right, let's roll over to chapter 2 of Tobit. And
I noticed one thing in one that it said that they took all of his goods for burning the dead or burying the dead.
Yep.
Which is crazy.
So all he had left was his wife and his son.
Yeah. Can you imagine that? Like one of your fellow citizens, neighbor, something's dead, you bury him, and then they just hop you blind and kick you out of your home. Wow.
Well, are we that far off from something like that though? We
Well-
do something righteous, somebody does something righteous or right, and they will send the whole weight of the law after you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was going to say, look at what happens when they feed homeless people some places.
Yeah.
Hey, you were told to stop feeding the homeless. Oh, that's it. We're going to go destroy your kitchen and your house. Okay, let's go. Tobit 2.
The Feast of 7 Weeks.
Pentecost.
Pentecost.
What does everybody call that, though? We just celebrated it.
Shavuot.
Whoa.
Right. In that. Now, remember, if they're saying Pentecost, where was this most likely translated out of?
Greek.
Yeah.
Greek, which would be,
The Septuagint.
Yeah.
is it in the Septuagint?
I don't know.
I'll look that up.
I would have to go with. I
Look
think
that
it might be.
Right? Okay, so let's see here. Now, this
Mine says
prayer,
Shavuot.
you're reading which one, though?
The Sefer.
Don't sound all disappointed.
I am reading.
Well,
this one.
you know, there's quite a stink about this book now, so I just don't want to upset nobody.
I'm reading this one. And it says Feast of 7 Weeks.
Wait, what was that one?
It's this one.
Good speed,
Yeah.
Apocrypha.
Yeah.
That. Oh,
And
It's some small print. That's some tiny print.
There you go.
All right.
I have to now do a magnifying glass for like ingredients on bottles and food and stuff.
Yes. Tobit is in the Septuagint.
Okay.
Yes. Enoch 69 I have as a note next to it in my big Septuagint.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
that-
Nice.
Okay, so interesting.
Oh, wow. I have notes.
Okay. So he is at this point blinded, right?
Mm-hmm.
Mhm, mhm.
And who is it that tells him, his son, that one of his brothers is, national brothers, is strangled and cast out in the marketplace. So we've kind of seen some of that now, where they just allow dead people to just lay there certain places. But this also has me thinking about the two witnesses with their bodies cast into the street.
Mm-hmm.
Well, why wouldn't you want to touch a dead body? Well, maybe if it had a virus or something.
Right.
Unclean.
Could have had a bat cold, a bad bat cold.
Well, and I've gone out with several law enforcement people who were on where they had to go in and go into homes where somebody had been dead for weeks.
Yep.
That's not for the faint of heart.
I dated a mortician
stomach.
for a little while. He was retired, but he was a mortician. Different
Okay,
breed.
so he's going to bury this body, probably get in trouble again.
Mhm.
His neighbors are wigging out
Talking.
anyways.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I find that interesting. He's blind, and yet he still goes out and digs that grave.
Yep. Well, verse 10 is interesting too, though. Right? He didn't know there were sparrows in the wall, and it says his eyes being opened, the sparrows muted warm dung into his eyes, and a whiteness came in mine eyes.
Sounds like cataracts to me.
Okay.
Which is a protection mechanism for your eyes.
Interesting.
If somebody gets a virus or gets really, really sick, or like a gallbladder issue, liver gallbladder, sometimes they will develop cataracts and do it very quickly. But it's protecting the eye.
So, verse 11, his wife has to go to work,
Mm-hmm.
right? The government put the husband out of business. So now the wife has to work. Gee, that sounds kind of familiar. Where have I heard that story before?
Yeah.
At women's work. What is women's work? Is it like maid service or?
I would say making clothes. Back then, I would say making clothes, fetching water, maybe preparing food.
So in Bible Gateway, she took up weaving like many other women. The people she worked for would pay her when she delivered the cloth.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
They got a lot from that little sentence. But we see a lot of that now, which is why I guessed that, right? You have the women that advertise, seamstress for hire.
Mm-hmm. She's actually using, further on, it said she cut a finished piece of cloth from the loom. So she's actually setting up as fabric making.
Mm-hmm.
And
I bet
just
almost
saying,
all women probably
Which
did
is-
it here in family.
Yeah.
You know?
Which is extremely time consuming, very arduous.
Yeah.
When you're doing, I mean, when you go from shearing the sheep to the spool to the wheel to the loom, that's a lot of work.
Yep.
Yeah.
So they got meat from somewhere. He says, you must have stolen it. She says, no, I got paid. And they argue about it. So then we go to chapter 3 of Tobit. And he does this prayer, this big prayer. Basically, let me die. Right? And then at the same time, we have the introduction of Sarah, right? The daughter of Raguel.
One thing that I noticed in, see, what was that, where he was talking about the prayer that he was saying, let me die.
Yes.
One thing that came to my mind was generational curses, generational sins. We touch on that lightly when we talk about deliverance, and something that was said to me recently was, we deserve the Father's judgment. We have no expectation, we have no right other than his promises and what he said he would do to expect deliverance or healing or forgiveness or anything. It's because of his mercy and grace he does that. But he says, I'm going to pass the sins of the father to the children, third and fourth generation. So to me, that's what he's praying for, is for the forgiveness of all of that.
Yep. Yeah, all at once. And those of us that have done that have noticed a big change in the way things happen around us.
Right.
So then.
Well, and then further down in 5, he says, your judgments are right. So if we're being judged for those sins, he's right in what he's doing. The Father's right in doing that.
Yes.
Sorry. I know.
No, well, he is.
We got to go further.
Right? I mean, there's nothing. What are you going to say? You don't have that right?
Yeah. Well, even through the forgiveness and the grace and mercy that we're offered through Yeshua, he still doesn't have to forgive that. I mean, he could. We're still responsible for our actions. I guess a lot of times we still end up with the consequences of those choices and decisions.
Right.
Anyway.
Right, we do. Right? If you're raised by an alcoholic dad that always spends the money on alcohol instead of paying bills, you're going to deal with the consequences of that happening instead of him taking care of his family.
Well, and you also are left with maybe that father didn't teach you how to handle money or teach you responsibility.
Well, he showed you the wrong way to handle money.
Right. And so then you're stuck with that lack of knowledge that you should have learned when you were a child.
Yep.
And then, we're relying on our Father in heaven now to come in and correct that and help us work through that.
Right. So let's go to Sarah here. She's been married 7 times, but each time before they go to consummate the marriage, the husband dies. And it sounds like, from the way the maids are talking, her maidens are talking about it, she strangles the husband.
And doesn't
Well,
remember.
because that principality,
because of that.
Asmodeus,
Okay. Asmodeus.
Asmodeus. Okay,
Uh,
yeah,
Asmodeus,
Demon.
right? I said demon.
Well, it says demon in the book.
Okay, yours says
mine
demon.
says the evil
Mine says
spirit.
What
demon.
verse is that?
17.
Yeah.
Well, 17 is the name of the evil spirit. But verse 8 is talking about been married to, or I guess it says Asmodeus up there too.
Yeah.
Yep. So what was that? Would this evil spirit be a, what do we call that? A spirit spouse?
Spirit spouse or generational, because
Something generational?
it said that further down that he owned her. So, if I'm understanding correctly, you can get that through generational curses.
Okay.
The spirit will stay with the family bloodline, the family line.
Right.
Is that understanding it correctly?
So that's the way I have been told. So, and I have nothing to disprove it. So, very interesting. So,
It really is.
she makes the same type of prayer. Please, just kill me now. She wants to kill herself, but she won't do that because of the shame and it will bring upon her father's house.
Mm-hmm.
So then both these prayers are heard before Yah, and he sends
Raphael.
Raphael.
Now, has Raphael been elsewhere?
Yes. He was in,
Where? Okay. Was he also mentioned briefly in First and Second Esdras?
Yeah, you're right. I just read that again the other day.
Did you? Okay. I'm asking.
Yep.
I can't remember for certain.
It was
Yeah,
either
he
him.
was one of the angels that came to Ezra.
And then there's also Uriel.
Yes.
Yeah, yep. Uriel's the other one I see a lot.
Oh, it's a lot to look for.
Yeah.
Here, Uriel is chapter 5, verse 20. In second Esdras. Excuse me.
So it looks like Raphael gets this pretty big mission.
Mm-hmm.
He is to heal both of them and to bind Asmodeus and ensure that Sarah becomes the wife of Tobias.
This sounds an awful lot like a deliverance book.
What do you mean deliverance book?
When we talk about spiritual warfare, I guess is what I'm talking about.
Okay. It does.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe another reason why it got removed.
Right. And I was thinking that just a moment ago. Well, whoa. If you went into any number of churches that I had attended in the past and started talking about, hey, this woman has an evil spirit that kills people that she wants to marry or that want to marry her, they would just be like, yeah, well, that ain't the spirit we got here. We got Jesus.
Pray for him.
So you need to just move on there, buddy. What was that, Matt?
They say just pray for him. I went to a deliverance ministry once, and it was a bunch of people in a church who did it free of charge, on their own time, and they actually got kicked out of their church for doing it because they thought it was taboo.
Hmm.
Something like that.
Wow. Well, that reminds me of, I don't know if you've heard it, this old lady wanted to attend this church that was in a nice neighborhood because it was a pretty church. And the pastor was kind of embarrassed because she kind of wore worn out clothes and stuff. And he told her, why don't you pray about whether or not you really want to attend church here? So she's like, okay, and goes on her way. And then he happens to see her like at the grocery store or something a few months later, and he says, so did you pray about attending our church? And she said, I most certainly did. And God told me to go somewhere else because he's been trying to get into your church for years, and you don't let him in either.
Oh. I'm sure that didn't sit well.
Good.
I don't know,
That's
but
very good. Wow.
I don't remember exactly how it went, but it was something along those lines.
Something like that. That's pretty good.
So we're in Tobit, and how many more chapters are left? Quite a few, actually, right?
Oh, yeah. 13, 14,
14.
Okay.
14?
So we're going to be in this for a while.
There's 14
And then-
chapters.
After we finish this off, so what do we got here?
Baruch.
We
That's
read
my
that?
next book.
We read Baruch already. You missed it.
Yeah, Matt, where were you? Yeah.
Dude.
It's okay, Matt. I don't remember either, so.
That after we finish Tobit, I want to start Maccabees,
Cool.
which will
Cool.
that'll be a swift kick somewhere.
And
The
the
old
bouquet.
Scots.
Yep. So, anyways, thank you, Lynn. Thank you, Matt. Thank you, Dee, for reading today. Very much greatly appreciated. And everybody, thank you for joining us. If Matt's internet would work better, he'd say like, share, subscribe.
Click the little bell icon so you get notified.
Woohoo!
And that, and we will definitely be back Sabbath. Maybe we'll be back sooner. Who knows?
Ooh, that might be fun.
I know. All right, everybody. Love you all. We'll talk very soon. Bye.
See you guys.